don't know how often you get a high school teacher as your keynote speaker, but I'm pretty excited to be here. I, first of all, would like to say, as a high school teacher, if I were to walk into a classroom of students who have just been sitting for 2.5 hours, I would not begin to lecture at them for another hour, right? What would be the benefit? How much are they listening to me? I don't know if it's totally unorthodox, but I'm going to encourage you to do something. One, if you want to stand and stretch, go for it, but I want you to do one thing. Turn to your neighbor, and I just want you to go on and on and on about all the skills you learned in high school that you put on your resume and helped you get the job that you have today, right? So, what happened? You're not saying anything. Did you put down on your resume, I learned to take notes from my teacher's lectures? I'm really good at multiple choice tests. Was that on your resume? No? No? What? No? I'm really good at 5-paragraph essays. So I'm a dreamer. I have this crazy dream. What if what we learned in high school helped us get a job? What if what we learned in high school connects to the real world? A lot of times in high school, we say, you have to do this because you want to get to a good college. Okay, that's a good goal. I did it. My mom's in the crowd. She made me do all these things. You don't know chemistry. I'm getting you a chemistry tutor. You need to get into a good college. You need to know chemistry. Never used chemistry in my life. And I got to a good college. But then what happened? I had no vision for a career. So my dream is not, yes, I want to educate you to go to a good college. But I want to educate you to get a job. I want to educate you so that you can be a productive person in the workforce. I want to educate you so that you have real-world skills. So, all right, I have a fancy PowerPoint. We're here, so I gave you a graph. This is the only one. You don't have my PowerPoint in your notes because I don't work that way. So here's something that I found from code.org, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a computer science teacher. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But code.org is saying we need to teach programming in high school because where is the job market going? The job market's going, there's going to be 1 million jobs, they say, in the tech industry and not enough people learning technology in college. So we're going to be building a job force and we're not building the people here in America to do those jobs. Why aren't they learning it in high school? So let me take a step back. I need you to know where I teach and what I teach because I guarantee you did not take my class in high school. If you did, you would be talking about what was on your resume from high school. So I teach at Fauché Learning Center. It's a K-12 span school in South Los Angeles, right by USC on Western and Exposition. We are a low economic school. We have, most of our students are first-generation American. I think looking at William's slides about the low skilled immigrants, my students are those children, the children of those low-skilled immigrants. We are 87% Hispanic, 10% African American, and right now 100% of the school gets free lunch because I think 87% qualified for free lunch. So that gives you an idea of where we are. I do have to say I have my principal here today, and I brought 4 of my students with me who, instead of going to USC this morning, because no offense to UCLA, we love UCLA, I do have some students who take their English and math class at USC and then take their other classes over at our school as a neighborhood academic initiative to build, if you're going to have a great college nearby, maybe people local should be able to go to your college. So that's my school. What do I teach? Well, I got lucky. You heard that I was a production manager once upon a time. I moved to Los Angeles. I'm a Valley girl. I grew up in LA. I moved back home, and I got a job at Fauché. And I was so lucky because they read my resume. I was supposed to be an English teacher, but they saw that I have a background in computer science. From NYU, I have a degree in educational communication and technology. And they had a career academy. When they built the high school, they said, let's focus on careers. So what happens in my school is after 9th grade, you have to choose a direction, either health, finance, or technology. So if you choose technology, I'm your teacher. That's what happens. And I'm your teacher for 3 years. And the students travel together as a cohort. So ideally, in an ideal world, they would take their English class together, their math class together, their science class together, and me for 3 years. And it builds community. and it builds trust, and it builds responsibility. And it builds time. At least for me, I feel like it builds time. I keep telling other teachers what I do and how I teach, and they're like, oh, but you have them for 3 years. We have so much content we have to get through. We don't have time to have them practice speaking. We don't have time for them to do a project and then go back and revise their project. We don't have time for the students to go figure it out for themselves, and because we have all this content. And to me, that's just such a huge misnomer, right? Because what do you remember from high school? If I asked you what the meiosis, I don't even know how to say it, what meiosis is, right? Do you know it? What would you do if you needed to know it? Where would you go? What did you say? You would Google it, right? You don't need it right there. You need to know how to go find it. If you need something, you need to go know how to find it and incorporate it and make sense of it. Yes? Agreed? Maybe? So that's what I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to teach involvement, engagement, collaboration. I love this topic. How do we prepare students for jobs of the future? You know, if a robot can do it, then it's not going to be a job, right? A robot can't think. A robot can't collaborate. A robot can't revise. The students can. All right. So the question in the Technology Academy is, what do I teach? What do I teach? Where do I go deep, and where do I go broad? I think that's the question for any teacher, right? There's so much content. There's no time to go deep. We have to go broad. So I have to make these decisions. Technology is changing all the time. What I learned in college or even graduate school is sort of irrelevant right now, right? I'm not teaching my students the same programs that I got my master's degree in. They've changed. So do I want my students to listen and memorize what I say, or do I want them to start learning how to change and be flexible? So I've decided, here's where I'm going to go deep. I'm going to go deep on the resumes. I'm going to go deep on informational interviews. I'm going to go deep on digital portfolios. We're going to learn how to do it, because if you can't get yourself a job, I don't care how good you are at the job anyways, right? You have to learn how to get yourself through the door. So what you're looking at, I think, is I have a Facebook page for my alumni, and this is my proof that going deep on resumes works, because it's not a one-day task. Those resumes are hard to write. They're supposed to be one page, two if you've had a long career, and they need to be perfect. They need to be succinct. They need to be to the point, which I think is what succinct is, and they need to be perfect. And I know as a production manager, I used to get 100 resumes for when I was just hiring an intern, right? I wasn't going to interview 100 people for an intern job. No way. I just need one good person. So I go through the resumes, I see mistakes, I delete them. I find 5 good ones, I don't look at the rest, right? Those resumes matter. Those resumes get you through the door. So this is a thank you note from a student, which I don't know if you ever sent your high school teacher a thank you note, but if they did something for you, maybe tell them. But she says, thank you for making us update those resumes, because it's paying off. It's getting me jobs. She doesn't say it there. I spoke to her afterwards. And then another student who had a full ride at Scripps College also commented and said, especially when you're the only one in the room with it, right? Why isn't every high school teacher coming out with a resume, a student coming out with a resume? Why not? Why aren't the skills we're teaching them being added to their resume? So we go deep in resume writing. We do mock interviews every year, and by seniors, they're interviewing each other, because you learn so much more when you're the one interviewing somebody, because you see all the mistakes that you, of course, don't make, but you see it in the other people, and it makes you think about it. But I also realized the resumes weren't enough. They need to learn how to write cover letters. They don't know how. Those 3 sentences to the point. Hello, I heard about you from here. I'd like to take the opportunity, I'd love the opportunity to meet with you. Attaches my resume and my portfolio, right? Because in the Technology Academy, we build websites. We make videos. Last year, we made mobile apps, right? We do things. And you don't know to ask my students what they've made, because you can't imagine they've done anything. So I need to teach my students how to go out and tell people, hi, I'm a technology student in the Tech Academy at Fauché Learning Center. I have a portfolio that will show you what I've done so that I can get a job. So I had this idea of these portfolios, And originally we were doing Dreamweaver, which was the industry standard at the time, but the problem was I owned the accounts. So after they graduated, I deleted their portfolios because I had to use it for the incoming students. What's the point of that? That's not cool. So then I said, great, Google Sites. I know it's free. I know you can do it. Make a Google site portfolio. So this is my buddy Gilberto, who graduated in 2012 and is at UC Santa Barbara. He did this with Google Sites. I thought that was pretty good. However, most of the students' portfolios looked like that. Right? Impressive? Right? A portfolio is sort of like the resume, too. If it's not perfect, if it's not impressive, then it doesn't count. So it has to matter. It has to be meaningful. So I was like, this isn't working for me. I need a new tool for them to learn to use. So one summer I sat down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to research free websites. And then about 10 minutes into it, I was like, this sucks. I don't want to be researching tools for my students during my summer vacation. I have 2 little girls. I have stuff to do. And this is where I think my teaching really changed. I used a device called Edmodo, and I proposed a question, and my students here can attest to it. And I said, hey, you guys, Edmodo, digital classroom, constant communication. Why don't you research and find me 2 websites where you can make free web pages? Right? We don't have a lot of money, so we're not paying, GoDaddy to make a site for us. We need to be able to do it ourselves. So they send me stuff, and from what they send me, I make a list of 10 items. And then I say, great, now pick one. And you're going to make a digital portfolio for me. Here's my resume. Here's my letter of recommendations. Here's a video about the Tech Academy. Why did I have them first created about me instead of them? What do you think they would do if it was about them right away? You think they would learn the program? Or you think they'd be going, do I like blue or do I like green? Do I like blue? Or they're just focusing on themselves, because that's what high school students do. They focus on themselves. So I needed them to focus not on themselves, on somebody else, and play around with what is out there, because everything is out there. I had a student the other day, her eyes were as wide as saucers, because we were doing presentations with the 10th graders, and we were experimenting with new websites. And there was one called Code Academy, where you can teach yourself any programming language for free. I learned that USC had used it in one of their intro classes, when you can just log in yourself and learn it. And because she was like, I want to learn web pages. I was like, Code Academy, there it is. Don't wait for me. We're not there yet. She goes, what? I can learn all by myself? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. It's all out there. Here's a secret. Everything's on the internet now. You don't actually need a teacher to tell you the information. You need a teacher to let you know the information is out there and encourage you to search for it. And I see myself sort of as like the bouncer. Like I want them moving forward, and I'm just trying to keep them contained and not going off track. But the learning needs to come from them, right? If I'm the one saying it, that doesn't mean, maybe I'm teaching it, but that doesn't mean they're learning it. So they make websites, they do presentations, and one group stands up and they say, here's the site for Ms. Aronson. We weren't able to incorporate the video. It didn't work. And another student raised his hand. He's like, oh, no, I use the same site as you. It totally works. Here's how you do it. All of a sudden, I'm out of the loop. The students are talking to each other. They're telling each other how to do different things. They're educating each other. They're collaborating with each other. They're making better sites. And as a result, I would say about half the class chose to make their digital portfolios from a site they hadn't tested out before. Because the answer is not for me to say, you need to use Wix. That's the right site. That's not the right site. I don't like Wix. Half my students do. I like one that's called Weebly. I like it better. My preference, right? It's not for me to be like, this is what I like, so you follow what I do. It's for them to go out and make a decision about what they like. So now the portfolios look a little bit like this, and they look a little bit like that. I don't know if you can see the colors on that. And they're, I would say, a lot more impressive. They're more interactive, and they have total control. Do you guys agree? Yeah? Yay, okay, good. So that's my portfolio story, and here's my proof of the portfolios. I have 2 quick stories for you. One, I told you we do mock interviews. One of my students, he's like, I'm bringing my computer on my mock interview because I want to show the person my portfolio. I was like, go for it. Usually it's hard to bring a computer into an interview. Like, if you have a laptop, go for it, bring it. He brings the laptop on his interview, and we do mock interviews, make-believe interviews, just to learn how to do an interview. The woman who interviewed him had no intention of hiring anybody that day. She was so impressed with his portfolio that she found him a job. She was like, this is amazing. And she has continued to work with him. She got him 2 like short graphic design jobs, and then she hired him as an intern over the summer. He did that. He made an opportunity for himself that didn't exist before. That's how I think you get jobs. It's not going to Craigslist and Monster.com and applying with a gazillion other people. It's going on networking and going on informational interviews. So this is another story. My friend Dempsey, who graduated in 2012, he posted this on my Facebook page. And he, you've read it. He got the job based on his portfolio. But let me tell you what job it was, because I saw him. I was like, you have to tell me. Like, this is such a good story. What did you get? He's like, Miss, I went to Costco. I was just applying to be assistant cashier. I just need some money while I'm going to college. And I was like, wow, that's great. He goes, that's not the job they gave me. They gave me the job of assistant manager. What? Straight out of high school, assistant manager, you didn't even apply for that based on a portfolio that you showed them. I don't have like reams of data showing all this, but I have these stories, and to me it feels like a little bit of proof that what we're doing is making sense and working, that these students can get themselves jobs, that they can have the skills to get themselves jobs. I just also quickly have to give a shout out. My school, I told you we're low income. Last year, 99% graduated from high school. That's pretty good. I don't know, pretty good. And I think we're at 90% who goes to college, or at least applies to college. We do have a problem. Low income means hard to afford college, so more and more are going to 2-year colleges. But I do have a former student in the audience who is a 5th year at UCLA, and he is the recipient of the Gates Millennium Scholarship, which means his education is paid for, and now he does public speaking based on that. So I think, we're doing good things. We're trying. It's working. So I go deep on how to get a job. But now, what technology do I teach? Well, we learn to make websites. We do learn HTML. We do learn coding. I took a new class last year called Exploring Computer Science that was actually developed here at UCLA. And I love it so much because it's based on computer science theory and inquiry, just asking questions. My school, if you're in the Tech Academy, it doesn't mean you want to be a computer science engineer. It means you didn't want finance or health. So I have to acknowledge that. I don't have all these computer scientists in my midst where it makes sense to start with Java and just do Java the whole time. There's so many other careers and aspects. So I love this inquiry. I don't know my time. I'm going to tell, I think, 2 more stories. Are we good with that? Okay. Or maybe just one. So one of the things that we're teaching is called Scratch Programming. It's Introduction to Programming. 10th grade, we go deeper. My juniors last year made mobile apps. We bought tablets through a grant that we have, and I was like, what should people have on their resume? Like, making an app in high school, that seems impressive. That seems like something that would be cool, relevant to have on a resume. But so we do this Scratch programming, and I don't know it that well. Again, I'm like, okay, I can spend all summer learning it, or we could learn it together, because they're changing it all the time anyways. So we start with Scratch, and I'm teaching them basic skills, and then we get to our first project. And the project is make a rock, paper, scissors game. And it was so funny. Like, here's the stuff, here's your rock, paper, scissors, you know how to play rock, paper, scissors, make it work. And after about 5 minutes, my students are just staring at their computer, and they're like, my head hurts, this is so hard. And I was like, yeah, that head hurting, you're thinking. That's what you're doing, you're thinking. And maybe we need to do more of that. And I said, look, no stress. We have 40 minutes left in the period. Turn in whatever you accomplish. I'm not going to grade it. Let's just see what you can do. So we do that. Some walk around the room, some go online, some just sit there and, cry a little bit. But at the end of the period, they turn it in. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what am I going to get? Am I going to have to teach a lesson? Maybe I do have to know how to do this, because I'm going to have to show them the way. I go and I look. 8 students finished the assignment. They were able to do it. So what would you do as an educator the next day? Would you move on and be like, cool, 8 of them got it, moving on? Would you ignore those 8 and just stand up there and tell the other 32 how to do it? No? What would you do? You can teach my class. So, the start of class, I had those 8 students stand up, and I was like, these people understand what to do. So now, get yourselves into groups of 2 or 3 and find one of them. They're your teacher for the day. And you should have seen the energy in my room. They're running around, they're going back and forth from computers, they're talking about it. They're engaging in it. Do you think they're learning more this way than by just following what I tell them to do? Do you think they're building confidence in themselves of asking questions and figuring things out? And then a month after that, I just think it just changed my entire classroom. I now have problem solvers. I now have people who are not afraid to try. We have time to make mistakes. We learn so much more from them anyways, that why don't we make more of them? I had a group of educators come in to see how I teach Scratch, and one of my students, I don't know if you remember high school, there's always sort of like that loud guy that doesn't like anything. Tends to be a guy, I don't know why. You know, all semester he'd been fighting me, but we get our final project, which is to make a game out of a genetics disorder. So I'm trying to connect my contact to at least another class that maybe they'll do better in that class too. So the people come in, and that kid is like, bring them to me, miss, bring them to me. I want to show them my game. I'm going to blow their socks off. And he did. Like, he just knocked it out of the park. He was so proud of what he accomplished, and he was so clear on what he did. He just impressed them. And the educators walked around the room, and later one of them wrote me an email, and he's like, I never would have believed it was a 10th grade class. It felt like an internet startup. And I just think that's sort of the goal. You want it, students who can collaborate, communicate, innovate, right? Computers can't do that, but guess who can? My students. Thank you very much.